Hey, Winter.
What?
What starts with T, ends with T, and is full of tea?
What?
A teapot.
Oh, yeah. I like that. That's good.
Hungry Squared, bringing you the best food talk anywhere.
Welcome to the Hungry Square podcast where the brain and belly meet. I'm Sharon from the Wasatch Cooking Guide.
And I'm Winter from theredparty.com. This week, we are talking all about tea with our special guest, Raelene Gannon, a tea sommelier.
Yay!
Let's talk about it.
Yeah, Hungry Squared.
Sharon, how's your week been?
It's been pretty good.
Has it?
Yeah.
Have you eaten anything fun
Well,
this week?
I've drank something that's really fun.
Ooh, what?
I have been on, so it's fall weather. It's kind of chilly.
Yeah.
And I've been on a tea kick. Well, back on it.
Oh, okay.
So I have this favorite tea that I save all throughout the year because it's only available seasonally.
Oh.
And so I go to Trader Joe's and then I buy all of the tea that's on the shelf.
Of that specific, what is it?
It's a decaffeinated green tea. It's a candy cane tea.
Oh, so kind of pepperminty, spearminty.
Yes, it's a combination of all the minties and candy.
So-
But it's calorie free, supposedly, so it's fine. And I go to Trader Joe's. Don't you go to Trader Joe's, because I will go there and I have to get my tea.
She will clear them out. Is
Yeah,
what she's
so
saying.
if you clear them out, I'm going to be super upset. But I go to Trader Joe's and I clear out all of their stock of the tea, and then I do that like twice during the seasonal holiday season. And then I parse it out. I ration it out throughout the year. And I have gotten my friend Brownie Locks hooked on it as well.
Oh, well then that was probably not a good idea.
Well, it worked out this year because I bought so much tea that I've been able to share with her throughout the year as well.
That's good.
But now that it's fall, I have broke open the tea. I've got a couple boxes still left.
I was going to say you're going to start increasing your consumption of it. So
Yeah.
I don't know if you can share anymore.
Well, I mean, it's going to be available soon. You can get it during the year, but it's just super expensive
Oh, okay.
when you buy it online through Amazon.
Yeah.
So,
Save some
but
money.
it's really yummy. It tastes like you're drinking a candy cane.
So it is a little bit sweet too.
Yeah, it's got this lovely vanilla hints in there. So it's
Tea
there's
bag?
vanilla bean.
Tea bag?
Yes, tea bag.
Okay.
Compostable tea bag.
Okay. Just wasn't sure if it was a loose tea or if it was already packaged.
Yeah, it's already packaged. It's really good.
That sounds delightful, especially on kind of a chilly night.
And there's a narwhal on the package.
Really?
So, yes, there is. So you open it up and there's like this little flap that has
Really?
a picture of a narwhal.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to go find
makes
that
it fun.
thing. Yeah, it does. If you don't know what a narwhal is, go look it up on YouTube. Actually, we'll put a link on the show notes
Yeah.
because those things are a thing of wonder.
They are. And so is this tea.
Yeah.
That's why it's on this tea.
A thing of wonder. I getcha. I getcha.
So Winter, what did you eat this week?
We had we discovered this amazing recipe. So I'm Chinese, as you may know. Maybe you don't know. Hi, I'm Chinese, everybody.
Yeah.
And my dad would make char siu pork. So it's like it's a very lovely roasted pork that was always very red in color.
Oh,
Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. That's tasty.
It's really tasty. And a lot of times it takes a long time. It gets roasted. And sometimes it can turn out a little on the dry side because you roast it for so long.
Mm-hmm.
Slow and low. And so and I love it. It's one of those things where it goes kind of, you can kind of slice it up and put it in anything. You can use it in a stir fry, whatever. So, but the problem is it kind of took a long time and it could come out dry. And then the other thing was that I don't have my dad's recipe. And so,
Oh,
yeah.
bummer.
So Lee and I were watching America's Test Kitchen a couple months ago, just on a random Saturday. It was a totally lazy Saturday. It was wonderful. And it was on, and they were making a crock-pot char siu pork. And I was like, crock-pot? That's not going to get you what you want because there's like a nice crust on the outside.
Oh, Crock-Pot's not going to give you a crust.
Oh, no. I was like, what the heck are they doing? But we watched the show and they cooked everything. So it was cooked through and it was still juicy and moist and everything in the crock pot. And then after it sat, it had cooked for the 4 hours or 5 hours. I can't remember how long it was supposed to be. You take it out and then you put on a rack.
Oh.
You brush a glaze on
in the oven.
And then you broil it. And you do it on both sides and you get this lovely caramelization, a little Maillard reaction. Oh yeah, by the way, I've been saying that wrong all this entire time. Thank you, Richard, for the correction.
Yes, Maillard.
But so we made that. This has probably been our 6th time we made it, and it is still so amazing.
Yum.
It just gets, you want those crusty bits. Like I like the crispy burnt ends. That's me. So that's what I had this week. It was so good.
I'm a little jealous that there's not
any leftover.
Yeah.
We actually made quite a bit.
I'm sitting in your kitchen.
I know,
and I don't have any of that.
Rude.
Yeah. That's sad.
We actually just barely finished it today. Oh. Sorry.
Dang it.
I'm a jerk.
I was too late.
Yeah. Just by a little bit though. Yeah.
Next time.
Okay.
And now for the main course.
Hi, everybody. We're here with Raelene Gannon, and she is our tea sommelier that we met at the Everything Food Conference 2016 in Salt Lake City. Raelene is from Canada, Toronto. Is that right, Raelene?
Right, Toronto area, yes.
Yep, and she has been nominated by the World Tea Awards for innovation and best tea personality. And she has a lot of street cred behind her tea knowledge. And we are excited to talk to her today. She's also the author of a cookbook called Tea from Cup to Plate. And we're really excited to have her with us today.
Thanks for having me on.
Yay, we're so excited to have you here. So when we first met Raelene at this conference, we were like, that's a thing? You're a tea sommelier? That's a thing? Raelene, can you tell us how you got into becoming a tea sommelier?
Sure. I was on a trip to China and I got actually fairly sick. And when I was trying to drink my morning coffee, it just wouldn't go down right. And I tried, and someone at the at one of the factories came up and gave me a jasmine tea. And I went, oh, jasmine. I mean, I have an Irish background, so I knew red rose or black tea and tea bags and that kind of thing, and that's about it. However, I tried this jasmine tea, and literally a cup of tea changed my life because I came back and went, what's this jasmine all about? And looked on the grocery store shelf and thought, wow, this is a lot more tea than I remember. Started to do what you do in this age and Googled tea and saw that there was a program at our local, it's basically quite a well-known culinary college called George Brown, and they had a tea sommelier course. And I went, wow, you're kidding, 2 years? Someone's going to teach me for 2 years about tea? I got to check this out. So I checked that out, took a class. I love September, love the fall, love this time of year, and taking classes was right up my alley. So I started taking the class. As soon as I took the first class, I knew, uh-oh, I'm hooked. I'm in trouble.
That is awesome. I love how doing just like continuing ed where you think that it's not going to be a big deal turns into something huge like that.
Oh, it was. It was just like, I love taking classes. I thought it was just a little, let's see what this is. And I was quite intrigued that 2 years I've programmed. I'm like, it's 3 letters. How can you stretch 3 letters into 2 years? But clearly you can, and I can.
Just little old tea.
Just little old tea.
So I'm curious then, was there any particular topic that was very super interesting to you?
For sure, and I think that's where the cookbook came from. One of the classes is tea, food, and menu pairing, and that was my favorite class. It's a little further in. It's after the first year, so it was a little further in, and it was my aha. Now I can see how tea and me can fit together. I'm kind of a foodie and a baker at heart, and I, started to play around with, well, if they're talking about pairing Earl Grey tea with a scone, why don't I put Earl Grey in the scone? And one recipe became 12, became a book. So it was kind of just that journey of exploring and taking tea one step further that kind of I really enjoyed.
That's brilliant. So can you tell us, I mean, down to basics, like what is tea? Like what's it? I mean, when we talk about tea, like are we talking about herbs or specific plants, things like that?
For sure. Tea technically is one bush, one plant. That's all it is, whether it's black, white, whatever. And it's called Camellia sinensis. That's the overall evergreen bush, the tree. There's a couple of hybrids. There's Camellia sinensis, which is mostly grown in China. And there's a Camellia sinensis assamica, which is mostly grown in India. Those are just general places for those two hybrids. And those basically are the varietals that are mostly grown for tea. And out of those teas, that's made, mostly Assam is a black tea, and Camellia sinensis is green, white. You make some oolongs and that kind of thing, but it does kind of make sense that Chinese green tea more for China, and it's the Camellia sinensis, which is a smaller leaf, and then the Camellia sinensis assamica, which is from India, which is mostly black tea. So it makes sense, and that's kind of how the split goes.
So it's basically a particular type of a plant that even differentiates your green and your black tea. Is that correct?
Well, you can make a green tea out of the assamica, but generally it is a Camellia sinensis plant. But that's kind of taking it a little too simplified, but it's kind of an easy way to separate it. But
okay. And then, so this is just a little side note then, and we don't have to go into great detail, but are herbal teas considered teas? I assume not, according to your definition. Is that right?
Correct. It's very often misnomed. It's often they say, and it's my favorite is when they say an herbal tea. That's kind of like saying, I don't even know an analogy for that, but it's not. It should be a tisane or herbal infusion, but it should not have the spelling TEA if there's no Camellia sinensis leaf in that cup or in that loose leaf or in that tea bag. But it's often put wrongly by mistake, but it really is not, and it really should be done properly, because people they'll think the Camellia sinensis properties, which are high in antioxidants and that kind of thing, they'll think that's what's in it if they see tea, or they should think. But if it doesn't actually have any Camellia sinensis, then it wouldn't have those properties. So it really should be, done properly.
I didn't realize that there were so many labeling rules. Now that you say that, I was like, I wonder if there's any laws against labeling something that's kind of like you said, an herbal infusion, a tea. So, topic for another time, maybe.
Yeah, technically they are, but it's a small category, right, compared to the big guys, and it's not over-policed, and it's that kind of thing. But
okay, so I do have another question then, because I feel like there's a lot of debate about this, and maybe you can put it to bed, Raelene. So, what temperature should you brew your tea at? Because I hear that you can burn your tea, right?
Absolutely. So basically the easy way to remember it is the lighter the tea, so white, the lighter the temperature, the lower the temperature, and the lower time to steep. The darker the tea, so a black tea, would have a higher temperature and a longer steep. So the chasm really is only about 175 degrees Fahrenheit to 212, which is full rolling boil. So black teas, herbal, rooibos would all get the full boil, 212, 5 to even 8 minutes if it has lots of barks and stems and stuff that you think would be hard to extract the flavor from. Like a rosemary, or like if it's licorice root. When you see root or something in the tea, sometimes if it's big pieces, you'll want to steep it a little bit longer, because you're not going to really oversteep an herbal tea, because there's no, astringency that'll come from it that it would if there was tea in it. Do you know what I'm saying? So it really
doesn't get as bitter.
Right. It won't get any bitter unless that particular herb had a bitter quality to it. But generally, you can't oversteep an herbal really, because it'll just get a little stronger, and a stronger flavor of whatever it is. And then a white tea or a green tea should be at like 175. It does vary a little bit, because oolongs can go up a little bit, Darjeelings can come down a little bit. because Darjeeling is technically a black tea, but it's often picked first flush or first pick in the spring, so it's a little more delicate. So I would say lighter or delicate teas will be lighter temperature. Hardier teas will be higher temperature and longer steep. And I think that's when people say, oh, I hate green tea. I can almost guarantee you 100% of the time it's because they've had it steeped improperly. Too hot, which is what you were saying, burn the leaves, or too long, so it got astringent and really dry mouthfeel and really bitter. And that's usually the two reasons why people don't like green tea. It's because they haven't had it steeped properly by a proper, in the right time and temperature.
So is there a particular way to drink tea, like out of a particular cup or with particular additions? I know some people put milk in their tea and stuff like that.
Right.
I mean, is there any proper way to do it?
Well, the proper way is the way you like it, to be honest with you. But generally, you don't put milk in a green tea unless you're doing like a matcha latte or that kind of thing. But generally, just to drink a a green tea, you never put milk in green tea. It's very rare. And and the reason why you put milk in tea, and the fuller fat milk, the better, because it's actually to coat your tongue so that the fat in the milk, so like a skim milk really is kind of useless. So if you're going to put milk in your tea, you've heard of some people even put cream in their tea, and the reason is because it coats your tongue, and it'll help kind of protect it from the harsh tannins if you like a really strong tea. So that's really the only purpose of putting milk really in your tea. Well, flavor if you like that, and then to kind of coat your tongue so that tannins don't kind of attack your taste buds. And some people put lemon in, but you don't want to put lemon, and get to some sciencey stuff, but you don't want to put lemon and milk in because it'll curdle the milk, right? So if you're either a lemon tea drinker or a milk tea drinker, but never the twain shall meet.
That's good. So let me just go back up really quickly. Can you talk a little bit about tannins? Because those are, it sounds like they provide a few bitter notes. Is that correct? What is their role in the profile, the flavor profile?
Right. It's kind of similar. Tea is very similar parallels to the wine industry. So, red wine has tannins in it too. And there is some controversy whether there are really tannins in tea, but let's just say for argument's sake there are, because it's just the easier way to describe it. And so, black tea would be like red wine, and white tea or green tea would be almost like white wine. So those are kind of the two ways to think of it, very parallel.
That's
to
really
the
good.
wine industry.
So one's more on the stronger, full-bodied side, and one's a little bit lighter, maybe fruity.
Yeah. So it's another good thing too. If people say I like white wine, I will direct them. I won't give them a black tea, because that's kind of it's also another way to determine what kind of teas people like. Is just ask them what kind of wine they drink, to be honest with you. So it's kind of a weird thing, but it will have very similar parallels.
That's interesting. I like it. Okay.
And most of us tea guys do like our wine, so we can tell you. Because you can't always drink tea, right?
True. So what are some of your favorite teas? What are good teas for maybe people who are just discovering tea and starting out with? Do you have recommendations?
Well, I think it gets back to what types of tea you want. A lot of people say, oh, I'd really like to get into green tea, but, I find it dry and astringent and it's bitter. Well, like I say, I often would like to steep a cup for them myself and say, okay, you try this, and this is the best it's going to get, and if you don't like it, then I get it, right? But then they need to tell me what they don't like about it. Is it too grassy? Or is it, do they like a little, some people put like the fruitier green teas to kind of get used to the grassiness of green tea kind of thing. So there's ways that if you really, really are adamant about trying to drink more green tea, but you don't really like it, there's lots of ways to kind of get it to, till you like it. If you like ginger, put some ginger in it. If you like fruity things, put some fruity in it. But I also, like I say, I'll ask them what kind of wine they drink. I ask them if they like milk with their coffee. Because if they like milk with their coffee, or if they're coffee drinkers, they're more likely to like black tea than green tea. And if that's the case, I always start them with black tea and get them kind of used to the whole tea thing, the ritual and all that, and then move them down from black tea to oolong to green tea. Because it's kind of, you can move them along the spectrum because they're kind of the intensity of the flavorings and the whatever, they kind of smoothly go from black tea to oolong, which is a huge category, down to green.
Okay, so now, Raelene, I just want you to, then can you describe to me, like, if you had one word to describe what the flavor profile was for a black tea, what would you say?
Oh my. Earthy.
Earthy. Okay, what about like an oolong?
Floral.
Really? So darker,
yeah, it has
floral.
a lot of organoleptic nose appeal in an oolong. There's actually special cups for tasting oolong, because you actually use your nose a lot when you taste.
Oh, yes, that's for
The
sure.
organoleptic.
So what are what are these cups? What are they? Do they have a special name?
Well, we call them aroma cups in the industry because you actually pour and they'll be tall and skinny, so that basically, so there's less, so the smell can go into your nose, as opposed to a cup that has a wider brim. The flavor goes out. But these are long and small, so it goes directly up your nose, so you can get a real scent. And you actually pour the tea into it and then pour it out. So you're just actually smelling an empty cup, but you'll smell the aromas. So, and then you pour that into a little cup, and that's what you drink. So you drink and you
so
smell.
Fascinating. I had no idea.
Yeah.
That is really cool. Okay, so, and then, go ahead.
Yeah, no, you were probably going to say one word for green, right?
Yep. Uh-huh.
Okay, sorry, I anticipated that. And I would say, let's say grassy or hay or that kind of thing, because Japanese and Chinese green teas are quite different, and Chinese will be kind of like a hay and grassy kind of, and then Japanese will be kind of like seaweedy. So those ones I really kind of separate, because sometimes people, that's another thing, if people say I don't like green tea, and they usually, if they aren't kind of really that familiar with tea, they won't know if they've had a Japanese or a Chinese green tea. So sometimes I'll steep both and they'll go, wow, I had no idea. They are like night and day. And if you say I don't like green tea, that's like saying I don't like houses. There's so many. Where do you start? So, you've got to start somewhere. It's got to be one, there's something about it they don't like. So if they've had a Japanese, maybe they don't like the seaweed, so they probably don't eat sushi. I also do that too for green tea. Do you eat sushi, or do you prefer sushi or Chinese food? Because
That's
then
awesome.
I can, direct them, like, again, matcha or something Japanese, because that's what you'd have at a Japanese restaurant, or Chinese, you'd have an oolong or maybe a longjing or something like that at a Chinese restaurant.
So, Raelene, I really don't know very much about tea. And when you say matcha, can you describe what that is for some of our audience members? Because I think some people may not know what that is. Can you describe what that is for us?
For sure. Matcha is quite unique and it's quite fabulous. I'm a very big matcha fan. Matcha is the only tea that you technically do not steep. You actually eat the tea leaves. So it's not water soluble. You're actually consuming the leaves. So when you put matcha with water, you need to, if you like, let's say it was too hot or something and you didn't want to drink it right away, it would sink to the bottom and look like mud in your cup. Because it doesn't actually you don't actually steep it with water and throw out the tea leaves. That's totally not cool. You actually eat those leaves, right? So that's the only tea that you don't steep out and throw the leaves away and just drink the liquid that's left behind, the infusion, let's say. So matcha is actually, the infusion does include the leaves, and that's what you drink. So it's a lot more fiber, clearly. It has a lot more energy. It has a lot more, it's kind of like, I've heard, 137 times the antioxidants of a green tea. There's some studies that are coming out that may not be exactly the case, but it's like a super potent green tea.
Wow. So when you talk about the tea leaves, and so we're consuming the matcha leaves, but we're not consuming just regular loose leaf tea leaves. Is that right?
Correct. You're just, the infusion, you're steeping the flavor from the dry leaf in a regular, let's say, tea, and then throwing out the leaf. However, that's kind of how my book got, kind of the segue to the book, because I was like, well, oh my gosh, why throw out these leaves? We can use them and eat them and put them in, I put lots of ground tea in my scones. I don't even buy beef stock anymore. I use Lapsang Souchong to make stock when I make a roast or a beef stew or something, because it's got that really smoky, rich flavor. So I don't even buy beef stock anymore. I just use Lapsang Souchong.
Yum.
Now that's so interesting. So that's really cool. So, and then I have a quick question about the matcha, because since you eat it, is there, is there a difference in like the caffeine content on that one, or is it about the same?
Sure. Yeah, well, caffeine has about a third amount of caffeine in tea than it does in coffee, but still, you're getting, like I said, it's kind of like a super shot of tea. So therefore, yeah, it's going to be a little bit more of a pick-me-up. But the beauty of caffeine in tea is that tea has an amino acid called L-theanine in it, and it actually attaches to your bloodstream differently than coffee does. So when it attaches with the caffeine molecule, it actually helps smooth out the caffeine through the day. So that's why you don't get spikes of high and low with tea, because of this amino acid that kind of comes along with the caffeine. But coffee does not have it, so you'll get the spike when you drink it and then the crash when it's gone. So that's why tea also can calm you and excite you at the same time.
Oh, that is so cool. I've noticed that when I have drank coffee versus tea, the tea is a more constant and gradual uptake of the caffeine.
Right, for sure. You don't get the, oh my God, he's like, they'll say the only time someone's, oh my gosh, I need a tea, it's because they want to talk to their girlfriend, not because they're actually, you know what I mean? It's because they want a conversation or they want to feel good, but it's not because of the caffeine side of it. It just doesn't happen. It's more, that's just kind of really, the caffeine's role in coffee.
So speaking of wanting a tea and talking to your girlfriends, can you talk to us? Can you talk a little bit about the cultural aspects of tea? Because I know that some cultures have tea ceremonies. The British have tea time, that kind of thing. Can you talk a little bit about various ceremonies surrounding tea?
For sure. I mean, I'm quite an avid reader and movie watcher, and I rarely find a book or a movie that someone doesn't say, "Would you like a cup of tea?" It's in every conversation. It's when you're not feeling well, your auntie gave you chamomile tea, or you went for tea with grandma. It was like a ceremony or a ritual around it. It really does create these, nurturing kind of feel-good moments. And the thing about the cultures in different countries is they have, like, Japan is probably, I would say, the most notorious for their 3-hour tea ceremonies. I mean, people take years and years and years to train to perform tea ceremonies. It's quite elaborate, down to the dress, down to the utensils, down to the swirling of your hands when you're doing your movements, and slow movements, and everything's methodical and time honored and traditional and calming and take the time. And I mean, that's really counterintuitive to our North American culture, so it's really tough for us to grasp, going for a 3-hour tea. I'm sure people would have heart attacks just at the fact of thinking of, couldn't do it, So there's that. I've encouraged a lot of people that, there's, a Korean tea ceremony, there's Gongfu tea ceremony in China. They're lovely to watch. They're ceremonial. They have beautiful costumes, and everything has a nice slow movement. It's very lovely to watch. But I really encourage everyone to find their own ritual with tea, because it's so important to find your, 10, 15 minutes, make your tea while you're writing your list for the day. Find your moments where it's good. I mean, I drink tea a lot more than the average person, I'm sure, but I have different teas I like at different moments. I like a black tea in the morning with a little bit of pep and a little bit of fruitiness to get me going, a little bit of spice to kind of spice up my day. And then I kind of, drink green tea from there, a matcha in the afternoon to kind of get me going with a nice boost, but I don't, like I say, it's not like a caffeine crash. And I also find matcha fills me up. So matcha, because of the fiber, I often have it if I'm somewhere and if I'm kind of hungry, don't feel like eating, but I need something, then a matcha is really actually good for that, because the fiber kind of fills you up and kind of gets you through a little bit of that caffeine. So it's kind of a good mix for me. And then And then at night, sometimes I mean, I can drink, like I'm drinking now, I'm drinking a oolong, and I can drink, I don't have a caffeine issue, so I can drink any time of day, but some people will have then an herbal after a certain time of the day. And I would so encourage people to drink herbal teas rather than decaffeinated teas. I mean, there's just so
Why
much
is
more
that?
in the, well, because there's so many amazing herbal teas. Why just get a tea you can have regular during the day? Why kind of throw a wrench in Essentia to get a decaf, which is so, they just don't do the greatest job of doing it. It's not like the coffee industry. So it's the same process that you would do coffee beans, CO2 or Swiss water decaffeinated, same processes, but there's just so much more to to tisanes and herbal infusions that the coffee industry doesn't have, right? So why not explore some of those and, have one with ginger or something that makes you feel good at night? I just think it's a waste of the opportunity to try some of these really neat infusions too.
Yeah,
Personal,
that's actually my cup of tea. Actually, I do a lot of
Yeah.
herbal infusions because there are so many flavors. I love them.
Yeah, yeah. There's so many. Why not explore a few of those instead of going with a great scent and then ruining it by trying to decaffeinate it and ruin its whole. It's only a third of the amount of caffeine anyway. So you're doing a lot of stuff to it for really no reason. To me, that's my humble opinion, of course. But
Nice.
So I have a quick question about I have seen people that get pretty fancy with their teas, and they buy the loose leaf teas. And when I was growing up, we always just bought our little herbal teas in a little that were already prepackaged. Is there a difference? I mean, is it just more for control of amount of flavor, or what are your thoughts on a loose leaf versus a packaged tea?
well, because I'm a tea sommelier, I'm going to say that loose leaf is better. Go the bigger, fuller leaf that you can. Um, but there's always a time and a place for the good old tea bag that your grandma had, memories and rituals and whatever. So I never discount it. I rarely drink them anymore because there's just so many more options. But it's a great place to start. I would never say to not start there if you're trying to get teas or if you have no other option. I'd rather you drink a tea bag than no tea. But they're just smaller leaves. It's a quicker infusion. So you can't, if you're used to drinking tea bags and then you go to a loose leaf tea, you'll be very disappointed if you do the same activity because tea bags are supposed to be quick. There's more surface areas, there's smaller pieces, so it'll steep quicker. So you'll only do like the 15, seconds, 30 seconds, and your tea should be ready. But if you do that to a black loose leaf tea, you will get no flavor out of it. You need at least 4 or 5 minutes. So this is the impatience part where people sometimes don't give that 5 minutes to a cup of tea to make it right. And that's where I feel most people, that's why sometimes I say to try green tea because you only have to wait 2 minutes. Whereas black tea to go for 5 minutes, they have a hard time wrapping their head around, well, this isn't calming. This isn't, I have to stand here for 5 minutes and, and they put the timer on and then they walk away and it's too strong and oh my gosh. So
I didn't even realize it, but it is a surface area type of a thing. Huh. That
it is.
I learned something new today. It's so interesting.
Exactly.
So what kind of tools do you need to prepare loose leaf tea versus bagged tea?
Great question.
I know that sometimes people, I've seen it, and I don't know if it's quote unquote proper or what, but sometimes people just leave the leaves in and just kind of sift them out more like through their mouth type of a thing and just try not to swallow them. Some people are using different types of contraptions, and I just wonder, like, what are the best tools to use?
That's a great question. Now, I mean, the thing that I think is the most common or known of is called a tea ball. The problem with a tea ball, and the reason why I don't recommend them is because they only work on certain teas. Because if you get a tea that's like an oolong, I don't know if you've ever seen one where it really opens up. They're small balls, and when you can actually steep an oolong for up to 7 times. So the ball will open up and get more and more and more flavor out of it. So if you did that in a tea ball, it would basically plug up. You know what I mean? Like it would expand so much. Sometimes you open up a tea ball and the inside's dry. because the water couldn't even get to it. So it doesn't work for every
Oh.
tea. Yeah, so it works great for small leaf, like black leaf black leaf tea doesn't expand much, but green and oolongs and some of the herbals just don't fit in a tea ball. So I'm like, well, if you can't use it for everything, why use it? So that's why I say don't use a tea ball. But I'd say a bigger strainer that you can fit in your mug or your teapot. And there is lots of contraptions though, but you just simply need a strainer. You can even use French presses as long as it has never been used for coffee. If it's used for coffee, there's oil in coffee. There's no oil in tea. So you'll never get that oil out of the coffee filter, and it'll always taste like bad tea because it'll taste like sort of coffee. So you either have to bleach it out or vinegar it out or something, but you really have to be careful if you try and use an old coffee French press now for tea. But that works, French press. If you go to Asia and you take a cab anywhere in Asia, you'll see the guy in the car almost always has what you're explaining by a big glass, kind of like we would call them a traveler mug, a big glass, and it'll have the leaves in the bottom. That's exactly what they do. They'll strain the tea through their and then as they're going around to the next little shop or whatever, they'll get some more hot water and they'll keep adding to those leaves throughout the day, and that's how they traditionally drink tea there. You'll also notice that their teeth are usually not that white. So, so that does happen because there's a lot of fluoride in tea and there's tannins. So they'll have good teeth, but they're probably going to be a little bit brown because it will stain them over time. Just like, again, red wine, right? Get back to that darn old wine analogy. So
There's fluoride in tea?
there is fluoride in tea. Yeah, there really is. It's good for your teeth. I mean, it's never really enough to be a problem, but there is fluoride in tea.
I didn't know that either.
That's
There
cool.
you go. Science of tea.
So can you talk a little bit about the difference between organic and non-organic teas? Or, I mean, do you drink both, or is one better than the other? Is there like a taste difference in those?
It's not often that you'll have a one-to-one comparison, like here's the tea organic and here's the tea not organic, because the farm is either organic or not organic.
True.
So you'll never really be able to do that comparison. It's a little controversial, but organic can be a little bit more of a marketing thing. I believe in the dirty dozen organic thing, where it's the foods that are the most pesticides and that's what I follow kind of when I'm doing organic or whatever. Apples versus bananas aren't really a problem because you peel
Sure.
off the peel, but apples are highly pesticide, and so then I'll buy those organic. So that's kind of my own philosophy or whatever, but it can be a little bit of a marketing thing, and I think you should drink the tea you like and not really worry about it. If it's gotten past our borders, it's probably good. I buy most of my tea through Europe, and they have super high standards. So just know where your source is really what I would say best. Know your source, where you're getting it from, and know if it's a reputable either dealer, seller, store, whatever, and just make your decision that way. But you can't really compare, is it better or not better, because they'll never do one or the other. The farm is either organic or it's not, and that's kind of really what you've got to decide on.
Okay, Raelene, I have a question.
Sure.
You have your cookbook, and you use tea in your cooking. So
Right.
how did you get it to that? And then talk to me about in what form do you use the tea? Are these leaves that haven't been soaked at all, and they've been kind of just crushed up, or have they been soaked and you're using some of the liquid? Tell me how you're doing that, because I just think that's an interesting take on getting a different flavor profile in your baking or in your cooking.
For sure. So there's two ways you can use tea in cooking. One is a dry form, like an herb, like replacing rosemary, for example. Or you can use it in a liquid form, in a concentrate, and to replace vanilla, for example. So those are kind of, you're going to use it to replace vanilla. So you're going to make a concentrate, like an infusion.
What are you using to replace the vanilla? I'm so curious about that.
So, for example, I make waffles, and often I use this butter spice one. So it makes kind of a buttery flavor to it. It's got pistachios and almonds and stuff like that. Cumin actually in this tea. This is a tea that I would actually cook with more than I would drink it. It's a bit odd tasting for me to drink, but I like the flavor of it in cooking. And if you add, for example, do a concentrate of Earl Grey, then it'll add that orange bergamot kind of flavor to whatever you're making, right? So it depends on the flavor you want to do. I was talking about the lapsang souchong. I infuse those leaves and make basically a beef stock. It's like a liquid smoke, right? So I make that, and I use that in lots of different kinds of savory dishes. I use it in some. I use oolong in a shortbread for savory shortbread, so like cheddar and gruyere and some cheese and cayenne pepper. But then I also make a Earl Grey shortbread, so I make it sweet with an Earl Grey concentrate. So, and that one I crush up some of the Earl Grey leaves and put in there too, so you get double. So sometimes I use the dry leaves, sometimes I use both, and sometimes I use a concentrate.
So when you're saying, I think this is so fascinating and so fun. With the Earl. Oh, I'm getting a little bit of reverb. I'm sorry about that. So when you make a concentrate, are you just putting that in like leaves and water, or are you putting it into something like a vodka does that make sense to like make an infusion?
Cool. Yeah. You can do many different ways. You can actually infuse it even in buttermilk. The more viscous it is, or the thicker the substrate you're putting it in, like a butter, like, because you'd have to melt the butter, then recool it, right? Because you need some sort of thin liquid to extract it. The best awesome one is rice wine vinegar, because it basically has no flavor, so you can use that for salad dressing. I have an acerola cherry and fig. I infuse in rice wine vinegar. Then I use like an oil with it to make a vinaigrette for salad. So you can put it in, water, vinegar, oil. But again, oil you have to kind of heat up a little bit to get a little bit less viscous. The thicker it is, it's harder to extract the flavor from it. So if it's buttermilk, I do put it in the microwave a little bit, but then I have to cool it down. Or I wet the tea bag first and kind of get it, the leaf wet, so that when it goes into the buttermilk, it kind of will, you have to almost like squeeze out the flavor on that. So the thicker it is, the little more tricky it is. Whipped cream, I flavor whipped cream all the time for my pumpkin pie for Thanksgiving. Flavor it with a pumpkin spice tea, and you've got pumpkin spice whipped cream on your pumpkin pie.
Oh, that sounds so good.
Rock star. There you go. You can be a Thanksgiving rock star.
And people would not have even known that you used that. That's kind of cool.
Well, they'll go, why is this whipped cream? And it's like vanilla. Nobody eats something and goes, oh my gosh, the vanilla in here is amazing. Vanilla's a flavor enhancer. So you'll know, hey, what is this? There's something in here. And because tea is totally not your first thing you think about, unless they come to my house, then they know, what tea did you put in here? But I mean, in most people's houses, they don't assume you're putting tea in their food. So they would go, what is this? I can taste something. This whipped cream isn't, there's something more to this than what I'm used to. And so then it's that kind of thing that people have to actually really think about. And then you can tell them, oh yeah, do you taste like kind of like an orangey? Yeah, and they taste like, Earl Grey. Yeah, it's Earl Grey tea in the whipped cream. So you can do compound butter to put on steak. Like that's what I like saying.
Oh yeah, that's what I was just thinking.
Put on your steak,
Yeah, we grill a lot of meat, and so sometimes we use some compound butter on that. And
there you go.
That
like
does turn out well.
Yeah, like a woolly rock oolong or a lapsang souchong, something with a lot of body in it, that'll work really well.
So Raelene, one last question for you, because we don't want to take up too much of your time. But as a tea sommelier, what are your services? I'm kind of curious. How do you serve people as a tea sommelier?
Well, often I'm consulting for new tea shops opening, either that adding to a current coffee shop, they want to add tea, how do they do it? Or to a brand new tea shop opening, I help them with that. I help restaurants add tea to their menu, to add it to them, bring better tea into the restaurant. Or now with the book, I help them develop recipes that add tea to their cooking, so that they can have a really totally unique, menu. So all sorts of flavor profiles. I'm working with a some people that want to have a new product, and I help them pick flavors. I do a lot of custom blending. I do a lot of courses, so I have courses on learning how to blend tea and do tea. We're just working on all those courses now. So there's lots of things, to do with it. It's just finding the time to do it all. And still consume my own amount of tea.
You are busy. I was about to say you are doing a ton, and I think that is so cool that you're doing like your consulting and also recipe development. That's really awesome.
Yeah, fun. Love the tea world. It's definitely 3 letters that have changed my life.
So where can we buy your book?
On Amazon.ca, actually, right now. You can, or on my website, teaandallitsplendor.com. And because I'm in Canada and I'm a bit British, it's the OUR spelling of splendor.com.
Yes.
So that. But I think actually you might be able to get it through OR. I can't remember if we did buy that URL. But anyway, it's teaandallitsplendor.com or Amazon.ca.
Perfect.
Okay, and today, Raelene is giving all of our listeners an awesome deal. If you go to her website at teaandallitsplendor.com, and Splendour is spelled DOUR.com. If you buy her cookbook there, at checkout, enter Hungry Squared, and she will send you free tea so you can try the recipes right away.
Thank you so much. That's going to be so fun.
No problem. I'm happy to do it at once. Why not be able to try one right away?
That'll be awesome.
Well, thanks for joining us today, Raelene. We've learned a ton about tea.
Well, my pleasure. I could talk all night, but I know at some point we all have to go to bed. So, but clearly it's a passion of mine, and I love talking about it. And when I talk about it, sometimes I remember a few things that I forgot along the way too. So it's always a pleasure to talk about it.
Well, thanks again, and we hope you have a good night.
Yeah, you too. Night, ladies. Thanks again.
Let's have a food fight.
Food fight, food fight, food fight, food fight. It's winter.
This is a segment where you can email us with your relationship questions relating to food. You can email us at hungrysquared@gmail.com.
Disclaimer, we are in no way professional relationship experts, but you should totally listen to us anyway. If you need professional help, please seek it out.
The food fight segment of the show. Here we go.
Winter, where's this week's question from?
It's
Or
kind of
who?
it's
is
kind
it
of a
from?
long one.
Oh, okay.
I'm interested to hear your thoughts on this.
Yes.
So I think it's kind of a doozy.
Oh.
Kind of like last week's, actually. I think last week's was a doozy too. So, okay, this is what it says. Hey, Winter and Sharon. Hello.
Hey.
I have a major dilemma. My husband and I went out with some close friends for dinner, and they were paying since last time we paid. That was all good. The problem is I happened to see what they put down as a tip, and it was insultingly low. My husband and I have both worked in the restaurant business in the past, and we know what it's like to depend on tips. So this really bugged me. What should I have done? Should I have said something to them? Not go to dinner with these friends anymore? Be sneaky and go back and add a tip? Sincerely, Blue Collar Tipper.
Eek.
Have you had that happen to you before?
Maybe.
Really?
Maybe on a date.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
So you kind of had this, like on a date.
Like on a date.
So
this was our first and only date.
Oh.
Let me say that's a qualification. You can't use a coupon on a date with me on a first date. Like, we can be frugal and whatnot, but tip well. Like, even if we're going Dutch or whatever, like, that's totally fine. But tip well.
Yeah.
And don't use a coupon on me on the first date. That's lame.
So what did you do?
Well, at this particular place, we went and got ice cream at one of the only ice cream parlors actually in town.
Mm-hmm.
And it's super busy because it was like a weekend night.
Yeah.
So it's like all of the high school kids and families. Like, it was super busy. There's a wait. And I don't even know. I don't know if he didn't tip. I think it was he didn't tip.
So could you, was it the type of thing where it was like written on the receipt, or was
Yeah.
it like there was a tip jar?
So, I mean, no, there was no tip jar.
Okay.
So you write it on the receipt.
Okay.
But like you pay at the front. So I knew that he didn't leave anything on the table, which is fine because if you're going to just add it to your card, no big deal.
Fine.
But he didn't. I mean, I was standing right next to him when he paid and he didn't. So I was just kind of like, I kind of looked at him. He's like, okay, well, let's go. And I was like, oh, okay. But it was a first date. So we had met up there.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not going to
Right.
come over to my house and pick me up kind of a thing. So we met there. And so I told him goodbye and then I walked right back in.
You're like, the date's over.
Yeah. I
Did
mean,
you
we stood and talked in the parking lot for like, I don't know, 15, 20 minutes or
Yeah.
whatever and said our goodbyes. And, you know, it was fine. And I just, instead of getting in my car and driving away, I walked back into the restaurant and all I had was, like I didn't have a lot of change. I just had a 20 from the ATM, but I felt so bad that I was like, yeah, just give this to my waitress. Like I went back in and it had been a while since we were there. So I had to grab like the manager and then I didn't know what our server's name was, you know, and so I had to point her out and they kind of had to run her down because it's super busy.
Right.
And then I gave her the 20. I'm like, I'm so sorry. And she was like, and you could tell she had been having a hard night too.
Oh,
and so
really?
That's especially why I didn't feel bad. Like, oh, well, all I have is this 20.
I'm going to give this entire 20 to you.
Yeah. Like, and she almost started crying and she was like, thank you so much. You know, she's like, you have no idea what this means to me. And I was like, well, I think I can imagine.
Yeah.
Because in our state, servers, wait staff have a really low hourly wage.
Really
it's
low.
like $2.80 and it hasn't changed in years. And so they rely on tips.
Yeah.
And it's not that way everywhere. I think some people will get paid minimum wage or a little bit higher in like other places, but not so here. So I felt really bad.
So you were the type of person that actually snuck back in and put a tip on.
Yeah. And I know he didn't see me like he saw that I didn't get in my car, but he didn't follow me back into the restaurant.
Gotcha. Well, I mean, yeah, why would he necessarily?
But yeah. So he saw me go back in. I didn't feel bad, but also we didn't go on another date. So
it wasn't,
it's no big loss.
No big deal. I really don't like bad tippers. Because I've worked in the food business too, and you kind of rely on that. And I like the blue collar tipper. They probably tip generously because they have been in that situation.
Yeah. I mean, I think a generous tip is like minimum 18%.
Yeah.
Like I try to stay in around 20%.
So I would say, I think my thing would be, because I don't like, obviously these are good friends. They said they were close friends.
Yeah, that's really hard.
But you don't know what the situation is for those people, because they might be able to take you out to dinner because they owe you, right?
Yeah.
But they might not be able to afford a tip too.
Or a generous one.
They could. Yeah. So I don't know. You don't know what people's financial situations are like, I think. So we got to be careful about that. But I also, I don't like it when people tip badly.
Yeah. And like everybody's idea of like, oh, I'm a generous tipper can be a little bit different.
Yes. And so they may think that.
I mean, I've met some people who think that 10% is generous.
Oh.
And I would not agree with that.
Yeah. I would not agree with that either.
I think just standard for me is usually about 20.
Yeah. I think ours is as well. So, and
that's just me. I found that I am not the normal, I think, among several people I know, I guess. I don't know.
Okay, so let me throw something out. What about this? If this person went out again with them, maybe they should just go Dutch.
Yeah.
Because then they can make sure that they have done well with their tip.
That's true. I think that would be an easy way to solve the tip dilemma, is you can kind of, if you feel comfortable tipping their portion as well as yours.
Yeah.
You know, if that makes you that uncomfortable.
Right. We've done that. We were at a restaurant and we were kind of watching something go down, which was, I think, pretty shady. There was another customer that was kind of, I think, pretending that there was some stuff on, like some money actually on a gift card that they had, but there wasn't.
Oh man.
And so they got the manager and they were all in a huff and like, this shouldn't be. So they basically got their meal comped because they're like, there's something wrong with your gift card system, blah, blah, blah. And
oh,
so
geez. And I'll bet they didn't leave a tip.
they didn't leave a tip either.
Ugh.
And so Lee was furious because he has worked in the food business as well. And he found the manager. We kind of scared our waiter with our waitress. Actually, she thought she had done something wrong when we asked for the manager. and we're like, no, you were great. And so when the manager came, we're like, hey, we saw that was going down. Did they leave a tip? And she was like, no. And so Lee's like, we'd like to leave a tip. And I think that also made that waitress's day, the other one that kind of got
Sure, the one
shorted.
that got the shaft.
Yeah.
Because she had to comp their meal all of a sudden at the end of the meal.
Yeah. And
That's
she
not
was
fair.
bending over backwards. We were watching her the entire time. She was very gracious. She was very attentive, and not too attentive, but attentive. So
Right, sure.
I don't know. So we appreciate it. We like to be sneaky. I think that's my way of doing things. If I see something bad going down, we
Yeah,
like to
be sneaky. And like, I think a good rule of thumb is to carry a little bit of cash.
Yeah, because then you can be like, oh, I left my coat in there. Or I need to run to the
Yes.
bathroom.
Yes. And you can just run back in and just leave it at the table and you don't even have to say anything.
Yeah, exactly. So, but you guys be good tippers.
Yeah. Be good to each other.
Yeah, it's
Be
just,
good to your servers, your
Yeah,
wait
and you know,
staff. Because they have to split it out sometimes.
Yeah, they
with
do.
like other people.
Yeah. So now maybe the question I'm going to play one other little devil's advocate thing. What if there wasn't great service? What if they didn't think there was great service? That's why they didn't leave a good tip.
I think that if the service was so terrible that you feel like you should not leave a tip, then you need to, as a patron, as a customer, say something.
To the manager. You would get the manager to come out.
Yeah, I would. I would address it with my server first.
Mm-hmm.
Just like, hey, I'm really thirsty. If you could stay on top of the refills, I would really appreciate it.
Yeah.
And just say it like that, really, really kindly, but with some emphasis. I would really appreciate it.
Right.
So they know, like, oh, hey, like if I come back for just extra for those refills, like I might get a better tip or whatever.
Right.
It's tricky because tipping like that is so vague. Like,
Oh, yeah.
hey, if you get me refills, I'm going to give you a bigger tip, but I'm not going to tell you how much it is.
Right.
And I might be one of those jerks who thinks 10% is generous.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know. But I would totally address it with the server first. And if I
Don't
didn't
feel like it's
anything was happening, then yeah, I would get the manager.
Okay.
I think it's just good. Like, if it were my restaurant, I would want to know, like, if somebody was totally dissatisfied like
Right.
that.
Yeah. You would want to
So-
make it right.
Yeah.
Because that means there'll be a repeat customer if you do make it right.
Yeah. And they'll tell their friends.
Right.
Especially if it's like a local place, like a mom and pop kind
Mhm.
of place. Like, yeah, they rely on that kind of business.
Yeah.
So
Okay. Well,
what would you do if you
um,
were getting terrible, terrible service?
Oh, we've talked to a manager before. And I think we've just gone straight to the manager. And one time we kind of realized we were in a restaurant where it wasn't our scene necessarily.
Oh, yeah.
So we were both in college. Lee and I were both in college. We were just on a date and we had just finished up doing something. So we weren't dressed up or anything. We just had jeans and, nice
Sure.
shirt on.
Casual.
It was very casual, but this restaurant we went to is a little bit nicer, and our server kind of ignored us because we didn't look prosperous enough.
Oh,
And we were a little miffed by that. We still got our food and the food was lovely. But we just didn't get refills. We didn't get, hey, are you guys doing okay? Do you need anything else? So we wrote a note on our check.
Oh, nice.
And we said we would have given you a bigger tip if you had been a little bit more attentive and not judged us for how we looked. Just wrote a note, and we still gave a decent tip. I think we gave 15%.
Yeah.
But we are, like you said, 20%ers. And so we wrote a note. And it, like, yeah, this is one of those things where we didn't want to cause too much of a scene because he was trying his darndest to attend to the people that would probably give him a more
the people that
generous
are ordering
tip.
like tons of bigger groups or tons of alcohol or something like that. Yeah.
So yeah, I think talk to the manager or we just did a little quick note. So I don't know if that's the best way to do it. I don't want my food to be spat in.
Seriously. There's so many chances for something to go wrong with your food.
Yeah.
And not even somebody spitting in it. Like they can drop it. Yeah. You can get something that somebody sent back.
Yeah.
You know, there's just so many
just never
things.
know. So that's why we're like, we'll just slip in a quick note. So
nice.
But anyway, I think you should be sneaky. I'm actually curious to see what everybody else does. If you just are like, okay, well, that's their thing. I'm not going to worry about it.
Yeah, my vote is to be sneaky.
Yeah. Be nice to people because it comes back.
It does. It's a karmic thing, I think.
Yeah, I agree.
So,
okay, well, I think we tidied that up.
Okay, be sneaky, everybody. Thanks for joining us today on our show. You can find us at hungrysquared.com, on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play Music. And if you would please subscribe to our podcast on whatever your preferred
podcast provider is.
Yes.
There's so many of them.
I mean to say podcast provider. Subscribe to us and it will help other people find our show.
Yay.
When we get more downloads like that. It's
because
awesome.
We totally need more people to revel in this food nerdery.
Yes. Please be food nerds with us.
Yeah, we need our tribe to gather around us. Woohoo!
Yay!
Okay, we'll see you later.
Okay, love you. Bye.
Bye.
Hungry squared, yeah, hungry squared.